Please take your seats. The firefighter procession will begin shortly. S'il vous plaît, veuillez maintenant vous asseoir. Le défilé des pompiers va bientôt débuter. Please remain seated. Uniformed personnel will rise and pay compliments to the colors and may be seated once the colors pass. Prière demeurer assis. Les membres en uniforme salueront le passage de la cortège de drapeaux et pourront par la suite se rasseoir. Please be seated.
Greetings in Mohawk, salutations of Mohawk. The people of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation have lived in this territory since millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. Les peuples de la nation algonquin Anishinaabe vivent sur ce territoire depuis millénaires. Leur culture et leur présence ont nourri et continuent de nourrir cette terre. Aujourd'hui, nous tenons à souligner que Ottawa est bâti sur un territoire algonquin Anishinaabe non cédé et à honorer tous les peuples de Premières Nations, Inuits et Métis et leurs propres précieuses contributions passées et present to cette terre. Today, we would like to acknowledge that Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory and to honor all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contribution to the land. Nyawa, merci, thank you in Mohawk.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the national anthem? Mesdames et messieurs, s'il vous plaît, veuillez vous lever pour le hymne national du Canada.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix, ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Guard, shoulder, up. Guard, shoulder, up.
Please be seated. S'il vous plaît, veuillez vous asseoir. My name is Mike McKenna, Canadian Firefighters Foundation Second Vice President. I will be your Master of Ceremonies for today's ceremony. On behalf of the Executive, the Board of Directors of the Canadian Fallen Firefighter Foundation, welcome to the 19th Canadian Firefighters Annual Memorial Ceremony. I would like to introduce our dignitaries for today's ceremony. Bonjour à tous, je m'appelle Mike McKenna et je suis le deuxième vice-président de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service. Je serai aujourd'hui votre maître de cérémonie. au nom du comité exécutif et du conseil d'administration de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service, je tiens à vous souhaiter la plus cordiale bienvenue à la 19e cérémonie annuelle à la mémoire des pompiers canadiens. Mais avant de débuter, laissez-moi vous présenter nos dignitaires pour la cérémonie aujourd'hui. Representing the Government of Canada, représentant le gouvernement du Canada, Sherry Romanato, Minister of Parliament, Longueuil, Lemoyne. Minister Blair, who was originally to join us as indicated in your program, could not be with us today. Le ministre Blair, qui devait initialement se joindre à nous comme indiqué dans votre programme, n'a pas pu être avec nous aujourd'hui. Representing our honorary host, représentant l'hôte honoraire de la cérémonie d'aujourd'hui, Fire Chief Steve Dongworth, Calgary Fire Services. Representing the Canadian Fallen Firefighter Foundation, our president, retired Fire Chief Dave Sheen. Le président de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service, le chef des pompiers à la retraite, M. David Sheen. In the seated area, I would now like to introduce some special guests. And I would ask them to stand when their name is called. Et parmi l'assistance, j'aimerais souligner la présence de quelques invités spéciaux que j'invite à se lever lorsque leur nom sera appelé. Deputy Solicitor General of Ontario, Mario Di Tommaso. Sous-solliciteur général de l'Ontario, Mario Di Tommaso. Fire Chief Ken Stubing, President and Chairman of the Board, International Association of Fire Chiefs. Chef des pompiers Ken Stubing, Président du Conseil d'administration, Association internationale des chefs pompiers. Deputy Mayor, City of Calgary, Jennifer Wyness. Ontario Fire Marshal, John Pegg. Fire Chief John Kearney, President, Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs. Le chef des pompiers John Kearney, le président de l'Association canadienne des chefs de pompiers. Kim Connors, Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center, Director. Monsieur Kim Connors, Directeur du Centre Interservice des Feux et des Forêts du Canada. Please remain seated, s'il vous plaît, veuillez vous rester assis. As we do every year at this time, Foundation First Vice President Doug Wiley and myself will now read the names of those firefighters added to the Canadian Firefighter Memorial. Comme à chaque année, le premier vice-président de la Fondation, M. Doug Wiley, et moi-même ferons maintenant lecture des noms de tous les pompiers qui ont été ajoutés au monument des pompiers canadiens depuis la dernière cérémonie.
Good morning. Starting with British Columbia. Stanley McCarthy, 150 Mile House. Robert Weeb, Canark Helicopters. Doug Smart, Central Saanich. John Paxton, CFB Esquimalt. Leo Grant, Cebulski, Chetwynd. Tim Kernigan, Coquitlam. Donald Melange, King, Cranbrook. Carl Featherstone, District of Lake County, Lake Country. James Losette, Kelowna. Robert Somerville, Okanagan Falls. Brian Warren Brick, Port Alberni. Carla Kozinski, Sprott Lake. Rick Shumka, Municipality of Saanich. Ron Suits, Sprott Lake. William Robertson, Surrey. David Rivette, Surrey. From the Vancouver Fire and Rescue Services, James Blundell, Ronald Fife, Alan McLeod, Kelly Mullen, Ronald Renville, Kenneth Swan, Arthur Wick, Stanley Brooke, Brian Oxenberry, James Whiting, Lincoln McGowan, Vancouver Island Helicopters, Jean Bourville, Vancouver Island Helicopters, Kenneth Gill, Victoria, Troy Russell, West Kelowna, Heath Coleman, Yellowhead Helicopters. From Calgary Fire and Rescue, Robert Allen, John Doherty, Vance Ertmode, Gene Paulson, Gary Lee Pozo, Daniel Prod, Douglas Robb, Harry Stakem, Donald Taylor, Roger Thompson, Edmonton Fire and Rescue, Beverly Henry, Dennis Hushagan, Mark Renaud, Mike Sokolik, Russell Thorne, Harry Kaminsky, Robert Weiss, Richard Hawkins, Fort Murray, Larry Walker, Fort McMurray, Conrad Dion, Fort McMurray, Cameron Potts, Medicine Hat, Barry Tilley, Sherwood Park, John Perkinson, Slade Lake, Wayne Kerr, St. Albert, John Garvin, Village of Rockyford, Saskatchewan, Murray Dole, Saskatchewan Parks, Arthur Dale, Swift Current, Darren McClelland, Swift Current, Robert Pollock, Wolseley, Manitoba, Bernard Bortmanovich, Winnipeg, Ontario, Robert Lang, Belleville, Lyle Patterson, Brampton, Ken Porteous, Brantford, Christopher Dwyer, Brockville, and Burlington Fire, Daryl French, Donald Reed, Peter Riley, Doug Scott, Dennis Young, Owen Cannell from Cambridge, Grant McCulloch, CFB Borden, Donald King, Coburg, David Monkhouse, County of Brant, Lindsay Mueller, Deep River, Norman Gary, Department of National Defense, Etowah, Lyle Morris, Essex, Brian Kirby, Etobicoke, Frederick Collins, Gravenhurst, James Round, Guelph, Robert Aldridge, Hamilton, James Arnold, Hamilton, Albert Barrett, Hamilton, Jaroslav Brzezinska, Hamilton, Vince DiFederico, Hamilton, Bradley Stan Phillips, Hamilton, Lloyd Rutherford, Hamilton, Henry Trash, Hamilton, Paul Villeneuve, Hamilton, Benoit Seguin, Hawkesbury, Vincent Davis, Kingston, London Fire, Jack Duncan, Robert Hefke, David Judge, Wayne Littleton, Kenneth Porter, Raymond Running, Franklin Taylor, William Eagle, Merrittville, Thomas LeBlanc, Ministry of National Resources, Peter Henderson, Minto, Robert Halliday, Mississauga, Frederick Hall, Niagara Falls, James Peterson, North Grenville, Clifford Goodale, Oakville, Ian Shepard, Oakville, Warren Lesser, Oshawa, Ottawa Fire, James Band, Patrick Dorian, William James Driscoll, Elvin Gerard, Robert Gorman, Don McCormick, Maynard McEwen, Robert McVitie, Gordon Paquette, Ted Tokarek, Richard Walker, Grant Wilson.
Ron Cronin, Owen Sound. Trevor Bailey, Perth East. Alfred Bowser, Peterborough. Rain Erickson, Pickering. Barry Lane, Pickering. Michael James Atkinson, Port Elgin. Bruce Fenton, Port Elgin. William Wilson, Richmond Hill. Harry Eldon Theed, Saugeen Township. Roderick Frenlin, Sault Ste. Marie. Robert Scherer, St. Catharines Fire. Walter Bozick, St. Catharines. Donald Bowman, St. Catharines. Stephen Bridges, St. Catharines. Richard Gattenby, St. Catharines. Robert Gill, St. Catharines. Larry Hall, St. Catharines. Al Lobzinger, St. Catharines. Manfred Martins, St. Catharines. Dennis Naliev, St. Catharines. Barry Norton, St. Catharines. Thomas Rapson, St. Catharines. Douglas Slack, St. Catharines. Corey Vanderlee, St. Catharines. James Rennie, Stouffville. From Sudbury Fire, Omer Beaudry. Edward Fredette. Thomas Rumley. From Toronto Fire Services, Carl Dieter Bertram. Robert Blair. Gary E. Campbell. Robert Alfred Chalmers. Martin Kostoff. Gordon William Crawford. James Duffney. Paul DeZuba. Wayne Elford. William Blair Gibson. Glenn Griev. Herbert Hammond. William Hawkins. Victor Patrick Kelly. Francis Lynch. Roger Martin. James Miller. James Ritchie. Glenn Sherwood. Gregory Simerson. Daniel Thompson. Johnny Walker. From Vaughan Fire, Timothy McFadden. Michael Vrien from Virgil. Windsor Fire Services, Timothy Bertillon. Patricia Bird. Robert Durocher. George Fairley. Constantine Sonny Garizm. Robert Hunter. Edward Marchand. Randy Meyer. David Pilon. Robert Rouse. Jack Scratch. Malcolm Vanon. From the province of Quebec, Sherbrooke Eric. McCaig. From Montreal, Jacques Auger. Serge Beaubien. André Bertrand. Serge Buron. Marcel Champagne. Marcel Charbonneau. Richard Chaguette. Raymond Charlebois. André Como. Denis Côté. Yvon Coupal. Jean-Guy Daigle. Robert Dupré. Normand Granger, Denis Grégoire, Jean-Claude Gay, Arthur Guillaume, Roland Houle, Fernand Jean, Serge Lachapelle, Denis Lacombe, Pierre Lacroix, Pierre Léonard, Rémi Neveu, Joseph Ortuso, Réal Rabot, Marcel Riendo, Gérald Riopel, Bernard Tremblay, de la MRC de Audrey, Daniel de Grandpré, Jean Thibault de Trois-Rivières, Guy Baudin de Valleyfield, du Nouveau-Brunswick, William Anderson, Fredericton, Roy Daniel Berthaud, Fundy Bay, Mark Como, New Brunswick Department of Natural Resources, Albert Roy, New Brunswick Department of Natural Resources, Daniel Paul Finnegan, St. John, William Jr. Peacock, Simons. From Nova Scotia, John Henry Arthur Andrews, Ald's Cove. Todd Andrews Arenberg, Bridgewater. Chris Myers Enfield. Skylar Lee Blackie Truro. David John Galley, Waterville and District. From Newfoundland and Labrador, Edgar Ted Keynes, St. John's. Anthony Squires, St. John's. From the Northwest Territories, Modeste Robillard, Mackenzie Forest Service. I now introduce retired Fire Chief David Sheen, President of the Canadian Fallen Firefighter Foundation. Je vous présente maintenant le chef des pompiers à la retraite, M. David Sheen, Président de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service.
Good morning, Member of Parliament Romanato, Chief Dongworth, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and above all, our special families. On behalf of the Board of Directors, ambassadors, and supporters of the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation, it is my honor and privilege to welcome everyone to this, the 6th National Firefighters Memorial Day, and the 19th Annual Canadian Firefighters Memorial Ceremony, as we honor and remember those firefighters who died in the service of their community. We are honored to have the Calgary Fire Service as this year's honorary host. A huge thank you to Chief Dongworth and to his team for adding so much to our Memorial Weekend. Our special thanks to Calgary and the Foundation Ceremony Committee for their role in organizing many of the weekend events. Finally, after 3 years of restrictions imposed on us by the COVID pandemic, we are able to come together as a fire services family to honor and remember our brothers and sisters, and to offer our support to and thank our special families for the support that they provided to our fallen during their legacy of service to their community. Such a thank you is not spoken enough and is due from each of us in the first responder community to our families. Thank you. For the past 2 years, while we were unable to come together as a fire services family, the foundation ensured that all our fallen were recognized through a small memorial ceremony that was live streamed across the country. Today, we are honored to be able to finally bring together the 3 cohorts of our families of our loved ones whose names have been added to our memorial since 2019. The legacy that our fallen have passed on to us in their ultimate act of service is awesome. And we are honor-bound to acknowledge that legacy, and more importantly, by honoring and remembering them. And even more importantly, by passing it on unsullied to those who come after us. Today's ceremony is a tangible remembrance of our fallen, regardless of the circumstances that took them away from us. Firefighters from coast to coast to coast of our great nation. Firefighters from all facets of the fire service. Firefighters who put the safety and well-being of others ahead of their own. Firefighters who make a great contribution to their community. Well, the fire service, and indeed all Canadians today, honor and remember our fallen through this ceremony and at this monument. We acknowledge the ultimate sacrifice made by these heroes and honor also the families who lost a loved one in the service of their community. We are and always will be committed to continue our support. And to you, the families, we say thank you. Always remember that you are and will remain a part of our Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation family. Finally, we thank all of you for your support, whether here in Ottawa in person or joining us on our live stream feed. We thank you for your act of remembrance and for joining us in honoring our brothers and sisters, friends and colleagues, partners and heroes. You have graced us with the honor of your presence and participation, and we look forward to your continued support of the sacred mission of the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation, never to be forgotten.
Ministère du Parlement, Mme Romanado, chef d'Angworth, distingués invités, mesdames et messieurs, mais surtout et avant tout, vous, nos invités spéciaux, les familles des pompiers disparus. Au nom du comité administratif des ambassadeurs et des supporters de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service, j'ai l'honneur et le privilège de vous souhaiter à tous le plus cordial bienvenue à ce 6e jour commémoratif national des pompiers et à la 19e cérémonie annuelle à la mémoire des pompiers canadiens, pour conférer tout l'honneur dû aux pompiers qui sont morts en service de leur communauté et perpétuer leurs souvenirs. L'héritage que nous ont légué nos disparus dans leur ultime acte de service sort vraiment de l'ordinaire. Et, à juste titre, voilà pourquoi nous sommes tenus par l'honneur de reconnaître cet héritage de leur rendant hommage et en nous souvenant d'eux, mais surtout en perpétuant cette reconnaissance par l'entremise de ceux qui viendront après nous. Alors, le service d'incendie et en réalité tout Canadien honore et commémore par cette cérémonie et ce monument tous ceux qui sont tombés au champ d'honneur. Nous reconnaissons et saluons aujourd'hui le sacrifice ultime consenti par ces héros et rendons également hommage aux familles qui ont perdu un être cher au service de leur communauté. Nous nous engageons à poursuivre notre mission. Et à vous, les familles, nous vous disons merci. N'oubliez jamais que vous faites et ferez toujours partie de la grande famille de la Fondation canadienne des pompiers morts en service. And now representing our honorary host, Fire Chief Steve Dongworth, Calgary Fire. Et maintenant représentant notre hôte honoraire, le chef des pompiers Steve Dongworth, du service d'incendie du Calgary.
Good morning, distinguished guests, fire service members, active and retired, and most importantly today, the family and friends of the fallen that we gather here today to pay our respects to. I can't tell you how humbled I am, as well as the volunteers from Calgary here this weekend, City of Calgary Deputy Mayor Jennifer Wynas, and the over 1,500 folks that make up the Calgary Fire Department, to be the honorary hosts for this weekend. A weekend in a year where we recognize the names of 9 more of our members with their names on this wall who left us too soon due to firefighting-related illnesses. This is the first time in 3 years that we've been able to gather for this event, and we want to thank you for being here today. There is comfort in being together, though our reason for gathering is a solemn one and an honourable one. On the wall of the memorial here it says, "Never to be forgotten." And those are words that we take very seriously. The ultimate act of sacrifice of your loved ones, recorded forever with their names written in stone, never to be forgotten. We know that these walls remember fire service members from coast to coast to coast who've made the ultimate sacrifice for their community. And whether that sacrifice was due to answering an alarm to help in their community or as a result of an occupational illness or injury, that loss had a ripple effect. That ripple spread through the family and friends of the loved one, through their fire service, through all fire services, and ultimately through their community. And that ultimate sacrifice made by the firefighter is never forgotten by those who are left behind. Family, friends, colleagues, organizations, and communities. They leave an empty chair at the dinner table at home and an empty chair at the table at the fire station. They are somebody who was loved by so many. And what that ripple effect creates is pain for so many. Pain that in many cases never goes away. So for those of you suffering that pain, we have to commit to you also that you will never be forgotten, and that we always remember what you've had to sacrifice as a result of the loss of your loved one. Most of us will never know your pain, but we all share a little piece of it, and I know that's why so many of us are here today. For me as well, memorials like today remind us how, as an industry, we need to maintain our focus and commitment to doing everything we can to keep our members safe. And we need to ensure that everyone goes home safe and well at the end of each shift and at the end of their career. This work will never be done as new hazards continually emerge in the environment that we work in, from acts of violence to lightweight building construction to psychological trauma to pandemics and the recognition of new toxic chemicals all around us. This work can never end. The ultimate honor to our fallen is to do all that we can to reduce the risk of future line-of-duty deaths and occupational illnesses. We owe that to them, just as we owe it to every firefighter that serves our communities. In closing, I'd like to commend the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation for their work ensuring that our people who've made the ultimate sacrifice are never forgotten, for ongoing care of the families that our fallen members leave behind, as well as promoting safety and good health for firefighters. Thank you again for extending the honor to us in allowing us to be the honorary host this year. Thank you very much.
It is now my pleasure to introduce, j'ai maintenant le plaisir de vous présenter, Sherry Romanato, Minister du Parlement, Minister of Parliament, Longueuil, Lemoyne.
President Sheen, President McKierney, firefighters, families and friends of the fallen, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, bonjour. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're gathered here today on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. I'd also like to acknowledge that it is with the heaviest of hearts we learned of the passing of Canada's longest reigning sovereign, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, this week. A constant presence in our lives, Her Majesty's reign spanned many decades, a period of time where we came into our own as a confident, diverse, and forward-looking country. As we look back and reflect on the life and reign of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Canadians will remember and cherish her wisdom, compassion, and warmth. I know the thoughts of everyone here tonight are here with the members of the royal family during this most difficult time. C'est pour moi un grand honneur et un privilège d'être parmi vous cette année. On behalf of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Minister Bill Blair, and the Government of Canada, I'm honored to be here with you today. And it is a special occasion as we welcome hundreds of firefighters and families back to Ottawa for the first in-person memorial ceremony in 3 years. Merci à la Fondation de faire de cet événement annuel une priorité et de nous donner l'occasion de nous arrêter un moment pour réfléchir aux multiples contributions des pompiers. Today, in solemn commemoration, we honor Canadian firefighters and the families who have lost a loved one in the line of duty. And we do so on the 21st anniversary of the September 11th attacks, remembering the courage and sacrifice of the Canadian and American firefighters and first responders who stepped up in the face of unprecedented uncertainty and danger to protect and save the lives of others. 343. It's a painful and poignant memory, and we will never forget those whose lives were lost in the line of duty. Whether in New York City 21 years ago, or the tragic wildfires of Fort Mac, Alberta 6 years ago, or even more recently in BC, Central Newfoundland, or closer to home for me in Montreal, Emergencies remind us of the devotion and courage that firefighters display each and every day while keeping us safe. Today, as we gather here on Le Breton Flats in Ottawa, we stand together beside this powerful monument honoring the firefighters who made the ultimate sacrifice. Among them, wildland, full-time, part-time, volunteer, on-call, military, airport, and industrial firefighters. In Doug Coupland's words, the artist who designed this beautiful piece, the monument conveys deep emotion and simple dignity. It contains metal from brass couplings from fire halls and stations across Canada. Ce monument se trouve à un endroit qui permet à tous les Canadiens de sentir la présence de ces pompiers que nous honorons. Nous rendons aussi hommage à leur famille, à leur collectivité et à notre pays. To all firefighters, the Government of Canada does not take your service for granted, and we're actively taking steps to support you in everything you do. We are working to establish an international center of excellence in Canada focused on firefighter training and coordination and wildfire management, and working to improve community-based fire safety and resilience by training new firefighters, purchasing new equipment, and supporting Indigenous fire management by incorporating traditional knowledge into how we manage these events. In the most recent federal budget, we committed to $37.9 million for wildland firefighting, which will help honor the commitment to provide wildland response training to 1,000 firefighters. Cela s'ajoute aux 269 millions de dollars que nous avons promis aux provinces et aux territoires pour l'achat d'équipements de lutte contre les incendies et à plus de 39 millions de dollars pour les Premières Nations pour plus d'équipements et de la formation pour renforcer les capacités d'intervention d'urgence du Canada. I also have a deeply personal connection to firefighters, as both my father and my husband were firefighters. I know firsthand the sacrifices that firefighter families make and the physical and the mental toll on our everyday heroes. And we know that the dangers still lurk once the fire is out. You have my commitment that I'll always do my best to advocate for the supports you need from our government. In January of this year, I was proud to stand in the House of Commons to introduce my private member's bill, C-224, entitled An Act to Establish a National Framework for the Prevention and Treatment of Cancers Linked to Firefighting. This legislation, which is supported by all members of Parliament, some of whom are here today, is to be studied at committee, and it will create a national framework designed to raise awareness of cancers linked to firefighting and to support improved information sharing and access for firefighters to cancer prevention and treatment resources. Pour ma part, je vais continuer à travailler jusqu'à ce que ce projet de loi devienne officiellement une loi canadienne. Et je veux m'assurer que vous et vos familles ayez accès aux informations disponibles, aux soins et au soutien que vous méritez. Your bravery calls us to remember your humanity and deep commitment to help those in need, and to echo those values in our everyday life. The memory of those fallen and the legacies they leave behind will always, always be with us. Au nom de tous les Canadiens, nous vous remercions de votre service. On behalf of all Canadians, we thank you for your service. Merci.
We will now honor those firefighters added to the Canadian Firefighter Memorial this year. Nous allons maintenant rendre hommage à tous ces pompiers qui ont fait l'ultime sacrifice alors qu'ils étaient en service actif. Captain Daniel Berthaud, Fundy Bay Fire Department, New Brunswick. Firefighter Skylar Blackie, Truro Fire Service, Nova Scotia. Acting Captain Patricia Bird, Windsor Fire and Rescue Services, Ontario. Training Captain Heath Coleman, Yellowhead Helicopters, British Columbia. Captain Martin William Kostoff, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Firefighter Carl Featherstone, Lake Country Fire Department, British Columbia. Lieutenant Daniel Finnegan, St. John Fire Department, New Brunswick. Lieutenant David John Galley, Waterville and District Fire Department, Nova Scotia. Firefighter John Craig Garvin, Village of Rockyport Fire Department, Alberta. Firefighter Carla Angela Kulzinski, Sprout Lake Fire Department, British Columbia. Pompier Pierre Lacroix, Service de sécurité incendie de Montréal, Québec. Platoon Chief Warren Neil Lesser, Oshawa, Fire and Rescue, Ontario. Firefighter Eric McKegg, City of Sherbrooke Fire Department, Quebec. Fire Chief Stanley McCarthy, 150 Mile House Fire Department, British Columbia. Fire Chief Darren McClellan, Swift Current Fire Department, Saskatchewan. Emergency Vehicle Technician Timothy David McFadden, Vaughan Fire and Rescue, Ontario. District Chief David Edward Monkhouse, County of Brant Fire Department. Firefighter Christopher J. Myers, Enfield Volunteer Fire Department, Nova Scotia. Deputy Chief William G. Peacock, Simons Volunteer Fire Department, New Brunswick. Fire Chief James Ole Peterson, North Grenville Fire and Emergency Services, Ontario. Fire Chief Robert Scott Pollock, Wolseley Fire Department, Saskatchewan. Lieutenant Cameron Potts, Medicine Hat Fire and Emergency Services, Alberta. Firefighter Mark Renault, Edmonton Fire Services, Alberta. Captain D. Troy Russell, West Kelowna Fire and Rescue, British Columbia. Fire Chief Leo Grant Sobolski, Chetwynd Volunteer Fire Department, British Columbia. Acting Platoon Chief Glenn Sherwood, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. Captain Robert Somerville, Okanagan Falls Volunteer Fire Department, British Columbia. Lieutenant Ron Suits, Sprout Lake Volunteer Fire Department, British Columbia. Captain Daniel G. Thompson, Toronto Fire Services, Ontario. In the past, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of a firefighter's shift, sounded each alarm, and when the call was completed. When a firefighter had died in the line of duty, it was the toll of the bell that solemnly announced a comrade's passing. And so, to those who have selflessly given their lives for the good of their fellow man, their tasks completed, their duties well done. To our comrades, their last alarm, they are going home. Autrefois, c'était la cloche qui signalait le début du cadre des pompiers. Elle qui faisait retentir chaque alarme, retentir chaque alarme. Elle encore qui marquait la fin des appels. Et lorsque les pompiers mouraient dans l'exercice de leur fonction, c'est cette cloche qui annonçait leur deuil du camarade. Ainsi en est-il pour ceux et celles qui ont consenti au don de leur vie pour leurs semblables, leur tâche étant achevée et leur devoir bien accompli. Pour vous, chers camarades, votre dernière alarme est venue. Vous pouvez maintenant rentrer. Please rise and pay respects to the paying last post. Please be seated. S'il vous plaît, veuillez vous asseoir. I now call on Jean Morisset, Reverend Jean Morisset from the RCMP. J'invite maintenant l'aumônier de la Fondation, M. Jean Morisset.
Your Honor, distinguished guests, and above all, family and friend, it is for me an honor to be here today to offer prayer, to do a ministry of presence, to join in your grief, and participate in your healing process. The Canadian Firefighter Foundation has granted me this opportunity to join with them in honoring and remembering firefighters who have been killed in the line of duty and to support, on the line support, you, family and friends. Nous sommes ici réunis en ce lieu tellement unique, historique, devant le mémorial des pompiers, pour nous souvenir de ceux qui ont donné leur vie dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions. Leurs noms sont désormais parmi la famille, sont désormais honorés. Parmi les familles et les amis, ont maintenant également honoré dans l'histoire de ce grand pays. Ces hommes et ces femmes seront restés gravés dans nos cœurs, dans nos mémoires et en nos âmes. Remember in your kingdom, O Lord, those who have counted not their life dear unto themselves, but lay them down for their friend. Shed forth upon them light of your countenance, and grant that they may be numbered among the hosts of the redeemed. Go forth conquering and to conquer with you, everlasting Lord. Souviens-toi, Seigneur, de nos frères et de nos sœurs qui n'ont pas compté sur leur vie, mais pour le service d'autrui. We don't say goodbye. We don't say goodbye, for they have reached the rank of immortal, their name now engraved here and in our heart and mind. Nous ne disons pas adieu le fait qu'ils ont rejoint les rangs des immortels. Leurs noms sont désormais engravés ici, dans nos cœurs et nos mémoires. Firefighter, if you please, would you stand with me for the firefighters' prayer? Pompiers, veuillez vous lever pour la prière des pompiers. When I'm called to duty, God, wherever flame may rage, give me strength to save a life, whatever age it be. Help me to embrace a little child before it is too late, or save an older person from a horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert, to hear the weakest shout, and quickly, efficiently, to put out fire. I want to feel my calling to give the best in me, to guard my neighbor and protect his property. And if according to your will, I will have to lose my life, bless with your protecting hand my loving family from strife. Wherever these men and women are called to duty, whenever flame and may rage, give them the strength to save some life, whatever age it may be. Amen. Please be seated.
Before we conclude today's ceremony with the firefighters' march past and salute to the families, this year's honorary host representative, Fire Chief Steve Dongworth, will pass the all-fallen helmet to our 2023 honorary host, Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre Director Kim Connors. Avant de conclure la cérémonie d'aujourd'hui, le représentant de l'hôte honoraire de cette année, le chef des pompiers Steve Dongworth, va maintenant effectuer la transmission du casque tenant lieu de tous les pompiers décédés aux représentants du service Interagency Fire Services Forest Fire Center, Monsieur Directeur Kim Connors, l'hôte honoraire de la cérémonie de 2023. Please remain seated. Uniformed personnel will rise and pay compliments to the colors. S'il vous plaît, veuillez asseoir. Demeurez assis. Les membres de l'uniforme vont se lever debout et salueront le passage du cortège de drapeau et pourront par la suite se rasseoir. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the official ceremony. We invite you to explore the memorial wall, the bronze statue. Thank you for coming. Mesdames et messieurs, cela met fin à la cérémonie officielle. Nous vous invitons à parcourir le mur de souvenirs et d'admirer la statue en bronze. Sur ce, merci de votre présence et bonne fin de journée. Thank you.